morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Midlands online worship service. My name is Jacob Gettler, and I am the worship associate for this morning's service. If you haven't already, please type into the chat box who you are and who you have brought with you today. Unitarian Universalism is a welcoming and inclusive religion. It encourages us to keep open hearts and minds because our own experience, conscience, and reason are the final authorities in religion. It affirms the inherent worth and dignity of every person and that we are all connected to each other and the earth. If you are visiting us today, a special welcome to you. We appreciate you spending some of your Sunday morning with us. If you have any questions, please let us know in the chat box, by phone, or through our Facebook page. If you've been attending for some time and have come to feel that this is your spiritual home and you are considering becoming a member of the fellowship, please contact our minister, Eric Severson, or a member of the welcome team, or let us know of your interest in the chat box. If you have a chalice or candle at home and would like to join in our chalice lighting remotely, now would be a good time to get that ready. We will be including joys and sorrows this morning as we normally do during the service. You will want to find the participant icon to raise your hand for that. And we will move on now to announcements. Next week's service will be Light in the Darkness, led by guest speaker Reverend Pamela Buchholz. The last 9 months have been tough on us as individuals, as a nation, and as a world. How do we find light and hope in such a time as this? Watch your email for more announcements in our Candle Flame newsletter. It will be circulated on Fridays. If you wish to submit an article, please email it to Wendy Altmeyer by Wednesday at 5 p.m. to have it included in the upcoming issue. If you have a candle or chalice at home and would like to light it now, please do so. Please join in reading our chalice lighting words today, titled Warmth, Joy, Togetherness by Ben Soul. Out of the darkness, light. Out of the light, warmth. Out of the warmth, joy. Out of the joy, togetherness. May this flame hold us for the time we are here with one another. Now Scott will share our opening words.
All right. We are Unitarian Universalists by John M. Higgins. Welcome to this place, this home where no revealed truths are promoted, no scripture or human beings accepted as infallible. This is a place for searching for truth. We are believers. We believe in intellectual freedom. We believe in justice. We believe in compassion and concern for each other and for the whole world. We believe in commitment to those which make us caring and active in struggles of the human dignity. We are Universalists, Unitarian Universalists.
Thank you, Scott. With your mics muted, please join Melanie in singing our opening hymn, When a Poor One, by Jose Antonio Olivar and Miguel Manzano. English words by Martin A. Seltz.
When the thirsty
I invite you to center yourselves and enter into a time of reflection and meditation or prayer. Today's meditation is from A Larger Part of Life by John Saxton. We give thanks this morning for all the gifts and blessings of life, for this day, for beauty and wonder, mystery of life, for our families and friends, for health and work, for opportunities to learn, love, and grow, for love and support of others in times of illness and despair. But we remember too that others here in this room, city, and around the world live in poverty, hunger, fear, illness, isolation, violence, and economic insecurity. In the silence of this room and the silence of our hearts, may we hear the call of a wider perspective and a deeper resolve. May we live in greater compassion, care for ourselves, others, and creation. May we touch each other, in each more deeply and hear other more clearly, to see each other's joys and sorrows as our own. May we strive to be and become more than we are, more loving, more forgiving, more kind, more honest, more open, more connected, more whole. May we heal and be healed. May we face uncertainties and tragedies of life with hope, faith, courage, knowing that the life is good and we are not alone. Now our DRE Heather will share a time for all ages.
So today's story is based on a true story written by Katie Stagliano about her experience. The story is about something that Katie did in 3rd grade. This is her story. Katie's Cabbage by Katie Stagliano. When I was in 3rd grade, our teacher gave us a tiny cabbage plant seedlings to take home. I spotted a small one in the corner with 3 tiny green leaves, the perfect seedling. I gently picked it up and headed home. My 4-year-old brother, John Michael, and I chose the perfect place to plant it. My teacher told us to give our plants lots of TLC, tender loving care. So we dug a hole that was much bigger than our cabbage and gently placed it inside and packed soil around it. Every day after that, I checked on it. I pulled weeds that could steal its nutrients. I watered the plant to help it grow. And grow it did. Everyone was amazed at how big it grew. Everyone came to see it. Mr. Gable next door had some bad news, though. Katie, some deer ate the shrubs in my yard yesterday. If I were you, I'd keep an eye out. So I called my grandfather, Opa, for help. He came over and we built a cage for my cabbage. And when we were done, it looked, well, interesting. But I didn't care about looks because I knew it would protect my cabbage from becoming a deer snack. You see the deer in the background? I think the deer might be disappointed. One night, my family sat down to dinner, and my dad asked us if we knew how lucky we were to be able to sit down to a good meal every night. Some families go to bed hungry because they don't have enough to eat. I had never thought of this, and it gave me an idea. I can give my cabbage to families who don't have enough to eat. Just a week later, my cabbage was the perfect size, gigantic. We took my cabbage to the Tri-County Family Ministries. As we arrived, I stared at the long line of people that wrapped from the parking lot to the front door of the small house. The line seemed endless, all those families just like mine, I thought. As we passed the line, I heard, "Wow, look at that amazing cabbage. Is that for us? That sure will be delicious." "Young lady, you've grown yourself a 40-pound cabbage. Can you believe that?" The head cook told me. What are you going to make with it?" I asked. "We're going to pair your cabbage with some ham and rice. We'll have ourselves a nice meal for a whole lot of folks." The chef transformed my cabbage into a delicious steamed dish. I stayed and helped serve my cabbage. I added a heaping portion of cabbage to each plate. Others scooped rice, ham, a dinner roll, cake, and a drink. A little girl about my age received the first plate. Hundreds of hungry people followed her, including boys and girls of all ages. 3 days later, a note arrived for me in the mail. Thank you for helping feed 275 people today. I was so happy and proud. If one cabbage could feed 275 people, then imagine how many more a whole garden could help. This is a picture of Katie Stagliano with her first giant cabbage, just so you could see how big this really was. She planted more plants and started a nonprofit called Katie's Crops to help families who were just like hers but were hungry.
Thank you, Heather. Our reading today is Who Cares by Jeffrey A. Lockwood. In our modern age of apathy and egoism, there is cause for hope whenever people care about something beyond themselves. But there is more to being human than feeling deeply, for we risk becoming impassioned fools. Our minds must conspire with our hearts. We should care enough to think, and think with great care. No human endeavor shows the double-edged nature of caring like religion, with its boundless capacity to foster our humanity and its vulnerability to thoughtless passion. In a world of suffering, to devote our spiritual energy to theological trifles is not just absurd, it's immoral. Yet we persist as if such details mattered. Who cares whether Jesus was divine if we treat the homeless man in the alley as less than human? Who cares whether God is omnipotent if we don't use our power to help others? Who cares whether the Bible's authors were divinely inspired if we write laws that are profane? Who cares whether there is a heaven if the hell of domestic violence burns next door? Who cares whether Mary was a virgin if we do not heed the cries of a woman being raped? Who cares whether we are saved when a child loses all hope? Who cares whether the earth was created in 7 days if 70 species disappear every day? The answer is, of course, that many people care about religious matters. And perhaps care, like love, is not a finite resource. Maybe some people have such a capacity for caring that worries about God don't detract from their concern for people. But I am not so blessed. So for everyone else like me, let us try to build a life in which we care about the things that matter most. Let's share now in an interlude with 2 pieces. First Sorrow by Robert Schumann and Lament by Zoltan Kodaly, played for us today by Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. This morning we'll review food and housing insecurities in our state and local area. Bay and Saginaw counties have had high rates of poverty due to the loss of the large portion of their industrial base, causing population loss and lower paying jobs. Now the same thing's happening in Midland. As I saw it as well when I was growing up in Muskegon, Michigan. In grade school, I didn't realize that my friend lived in poverty, as I didn't. His mother was a single mom who lived with no car, and they lived near the school, the grocery store, and the city bus stop, so she could use public transportation to go to work. She had a friend that would drive her once a week to the county building to pick up her government surplus food to eat every week. The biggest thing I remember from that is she got canned meat, something I'd never seen before. And for some reason, that interests me. I'd spend a lot of time having meals with them, and it was always fun having meals with my friend and his mother. As a child, I never felt there was a poverty problem. Being around, it just felt normal. Most people treated everything the same. No one ever said anything about my friend or his mother being poor. And so I just didn't feel any other way. I had heard that my grandmother fed her neighbors during the Depression. My grandfather was lucky enough to have a job, but there is some question as to whether my grandfather really knew what she was doing, as he forbid her for doing that for some reason. Then as a teenager, I worked with my father in an ambulance service. So I saw the best and worst of people in all kinds of circumstances. Throughout these experiences, I gained compassion for others, as well as the knowledge of people in poverty. They are all just like me. Or in other words, like our first principle, I learned to recognize that of the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Being a member of the love team, seeking to help people that have less than me, seems consistent with things I have learned in my childhood. And with those same reasons, I have become a union in the first place. I was happy to learn that in 2017, the Unitarian Universalist Association had rejoined the Poor People's Campaign, co-led by Reverend Dr. William Barber and the Reverend Liz Theoharis, and hope to revive the Poor People's Campaign that was begun by Martin Luther King shortly before his murder in 1968. Reverend Barber, an American Protestant minister and political activist, and Reverend Theoharis is a theologian and ordained Presbyterian minister. In a March 2020 article, Reverend Barber said the real epidemic is poverty, speaking about how the coronavirus pandemic will bring suffering to death to those who are already suffering with poverty. The following figures I cite do not reflect this, since the 2020 figures for the local area are available. The Michigan League of Public Policy shows that 1 in 5 children in Michigan live in poverty. That makes 50% of the state school children eligible for free or reduced lunches. Another concern in the report is that 43% of the households with earnings above the federal poverty rate, that's equals about 1.5 million people in Michigan, are struggling to meet their basic needs of food, housing, child care, health care, and transportation. You wonder why that's true in these high times of employment. America is supposed to be having its best time ever. And part of that reason could be a report from 1819 that the average wage, weekly wage for the people of the Midland County has decreased 13%. That's the second highest decline for counties in the state of Michigan. Let's talk about food a minute. 2 decades ago, Bill and Cynthia Schutte put together with others, saw a need to get surplus food to those throughout Michigan with low income, and started the Harvest Gathering Food Council of Michigan. This organization created 13 regional food banks throughout the upper and lower peninsula to serve all 83 counties in Michigan. These regional food banks distribute millions of pounds of food at low cost, allowing food pantries to buy below wholesale at pennies instead of dollars that we spend in the retail store. A similar group that does this is this Hidden Harvest based in Saginaw. They distribute surplus food from food producers, from local restaurants and grocery stores to Great Lakes Bay region area businesses, actually. Nonprofits. For donations, they prefer monetary donations from the public instead of donated food items, as they, like the food banks, rely on low-cost, high bulk food purchases. The fellowship will support Hidden Harvest with $1,600 in donations from Eric's organization. The Midland County Food Pantry Network presently purchases 45% of their supplies from the statewide food bank or from the Hidden Harvest, while 55% of food distributed is donated food items from churches and individuals in Midland County. Donations of money help the pantry purchase the needed items at lower rates than the food from the food banks. An example of what the food bank can do with the food pantry is for every 5 cents the food pantry spends on foods would cost us $1 in the store. So it makes more sense for us to give money directly to the food pantry than to buy items at retail price to donate to the food pantries. Now we'll talk a minute about housing. Building by the private sector to low-income families is limited in Midland. Because of the high property values, it makes it unprofitable to build apartments for low-income families can afford. In order to build those affordable apartments, a builder must negotiate for individual tax rates, as a developer is presently doing for a complex on Jefferson Avenue. The nonprofits also build low-income housing and use money from the foundations, or have to build further away from the needed services for the poor, which would be to the health care, their food, their jobs, and all to make it financially feasible. Nonprofit agencies have built low-income housing communities in both Bay and Saginaw counties where the property costs are lower than Midlands. In closing, please remember that poverty isn't a personal failure, but a direct result of a broken economy. It deprives many of family-sustaining jobs, leaving people just one unexpected expense away from financial ruin. Recognizing the growing poverty in our area, I'd like to see us increase our participation by addressing the food needs in our communities. The donations of money through the food pantry is one of the most efficient ways for us to help with food insecurity locally. However, if you feel more comfortable giving food items, please do so, for it's much better to give than not to give in this time of need. I welcome our increasing involvement with the Interfaith Friends who have been assisting those in need due to the floods. And I As I worked on this talk, I gathered much data regarding the subject. It's just too lengthy to mention in this talk. So I've added a desire to know more about public housing, and I'm thinking of attending a housing commission hearing that's coming up on December 7th, when they consider the application for the Ohio developer to build the low-income housing development on Jefferson Avenue. Will be located over by Kroger, and learn more regarding the whole process. This might be a way for the Love Team to learn more about the local housing and other groups and those who are concerned about the same issues. If you know more about public housing, I would welcome your ideas and suggestions as we look for ways to assist those in need.
Thank you, Scott. We affirm the work of this fellowship and its mission through our financial contributions. We continue to rely on you paying your pledges and providing what you would otherwise drop in the collection plate. While our in-person activities may be suspended, our staff continue working hard to provide the services we need. They and the bills still need to be paid. Please give as generously as you can, and may what you give bring you joy. Please take this time to write a check if you wish and mail it to the fellowship at 6220 Jefferson Avenue, Midland, Michigan 48640. To donate online, please stay after the service for instructions. Thank you for your generosity. Let's share now in an offertory, Profetiza Pueblo Mío, Prophecy, O My People, by Rosa Martha Zarate Macias, arranged by Kenneth Herman, played for us today by Melanie.
Thank you, Jacob. This song is one of our hymns in the supplemental hymnal, and it talks about prophecy, O my people, prophecy one more time. Let your voice be the echo of the outcries of all oppressed. And it talks about don't give up on building a new society where there is economic justice.
Thank you, Melanie. Now, with your mics muted, please join Melanie in singing our closing hymn, O We Give Thanks, by Wendy Luella Perkins.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we
us far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Thank you, Melanie. Our closing words today are from Kathy A. Huft. Our time in this place may have ended, but our connection to each other in the community remains. Together, we may walk in a path of justice, speak words of love, live in selfless deed, tread gently upon the earth, and fill the world with compassion. Until we meet again, blessed be. Thank you to everyone who's helped make this service possible today, and thank you for all for joining us. If you have to stay and chat, if you'd like to stay and chat, great. If you have to go, we understand. Whatever you encounter in this week, please know that we are a loving community that goes with you. Until we are together again, many blessings.